Should you buy an investment property from a deal sourcer? Today I've got 4 big tips to share with you on this subject. Hi, my name is Tony Law from Your First 4 Houses. My channel is all about helping you achieve financial freedom through property. If this is your first time here, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click that bell notification icon so that you don't miss out on any of the free content that I give you each and every week. So first things first, there are good property sources out there. There really are. And there's also some that are maybe not so good. But what do I mean by good? Well, I mean these are professional people who work really hard to find great deals, and then they receive, quite rightly, a good fee, a good finder's fee for selling those deals on. Now, they may source those properties themselves, or they may act as a kind of conduit where they're sort of funneling in other sources, and then they then sell it on. But either way, if they're good, you genuinely can pick up really great deals. If they're not so good, but we're not going to dwell on that because we only really want to deal with the good ones, don't we? And I want to share 4 big tips with you when it comes to the sources. So first things first, due diligence on the sourcer is really important, I feel. You want to make sure that you're dealing with the right type of sourcer. Essentially, you want to make sure you're dealing with a good person, somebody that's going to put a genuine deal in front of you and feel confident that the whole process is going to go through really well. So how do you actually check these people out? Well, let's start off with the really obvious stuff. Just Google their name and Google their company's name. Also check them out on LinkedIn, look on online forums and ask around other kind of property savvy people for referrals and recommendations. Now, when you're carrying out this due diligence, you don't necessarily need to believe 1 or 2 people's opinions if they're maybe not such positive views. You're really looking for a weight of evidence, either for or against the sourcer that you're talking to. Ask for references. And when those references are put before you from other people who have bought deals from this sourcer, I personally would encourage you to actually phone that person up and have a chat to them and see how they got on, what were their experiences. Ask to see examples of deals that they have done, either themselves or where they've moved them on to potential buyers, investors like you. Ask to actually see details of those deals and check them out to, again, how can I put this? To make sure that they're real, to make sure that they're genuine deals that have genuinely been done. You should confirm that they're a member of either the Property Ombudsman or the Property Redress Scheme, as this is now a legal requirement for sources. If they're not, I'm not saying that you should automatically not deal with them. I'm not saying that at all. Legally, they're supposed to be a member of one of those schemes, but maybe they're just starting out and maybe they genuinely have found a fantastic deal. But if you are going to interact with this person and potentially buy this deal off of them, you just need to be aware that maybe you're not entirely protected if they're not part of this scheme. Do they have any professional indemnity insurance? This is again a legal requirement, and going back to my previous comment, maybe that new investor who has genuinely found a fantastic deal, maybe they haven't got any kind of professional indemnity insurance, and you need to consider how that's going to affect you if things do actually go wrong. Don't forget, these days it's ever so easy to look professional, isn't it? It's ever so easy to quickly build up a persona online in particular and look professional. That doesn't automatically mean that the person you're dealing with is actually good, is actually a professional person. Next, let's talk about due diligence on the property. Don't blindly trust the person that's selling you this deal. Don't forget, they're entirely biased. Now, I've been a salesman for 2 decades, and so I know that it's possible to kind of spin a deal in such a way to make it look really, really attractive. But ultimately, Ultimately, you need to always do your own due diligence on any deal that's put in front of you by a sourcer. You've still got to do your own due diligence on this property. Check out comparable house sales or flat sales in that specific area and make sure that they're a close comparable, both in terms of the type of property and also the time scale as well. Check out the demand. Ask letting agents what properties they're desperate for and in which areas. Obviously, if that aligns with the deal that you're looking to buy, awesome. I would encourage you to always err slightly on the pessimistic side. I never have a problem with erring on that side, but I think it's a good place to actually position yourself. If you get good at doing due diligence, honestly, there is no excuse for ever buying a bad deal. Next, be wary of discounts. Now, obviously, I'm sure you've heard of the phrase buying below market value. For example, buy this property 25% below market value. Now, I'm absolutely not saying you can't do that. That's a terrible double negative, isn't it? Let me rephrase. You absolutely can buy properties, in my opinion, below market value. And I could demonstrate that I've done that many times before. However, if a sourcer puts a deal in front of you and they say to you, well, this property is of course worth, £200,000 were you to resell it once it was done up, but you can actually buy this property today for £150,000. Well, that's technically 25% discount, isn't it, Mr. Buyer? Well, I would make the obvious observation that if it's going to cost you £40,000 to refurbish that property, to bring it up to the standard where you could sell it for £200,000, and you've got to pay a finder's fee and and all the fees for legals and maybe the cost of borrowing, and that adds another £10,000 to the deal. Well, you might as well just go out and bought a property off the market at full market price, mightn't you? That's not a deal. In fact, some of the worst deals I've seen is where somebody has bought a property in an area that they wouldn't normally buy in, maybe in an area they wouldn't even necessarily drive around in, where there's an oversupply just because of a so-called discount. So be wary when someone quotes you a percentage discount. I'm going back to due diligence here again. You need to decide what the discount, if any, is on this particular deal. Source yourself. Here's a question. Is a sourcer ever really going to give you their very, very best deals? I think you probably know the answer to that. I would suggest they're probably not going to give you the best deals. And you know what? Sourcing properties is actually not that difficult to do. Can I suggest you start close to home if this is something that interests you? You know your area probably better than anybody else, realistically speaking. You know which roads are good, you know which roads are bad. You probably know, without putting too much effort or energy in, what the kind of rental demand is in your area. If you don't, you can certainly start talking to agents and establish that really, really quickly. And of course, the talking to agents process is all part of the building rapport process that I kind of bang on about an awful lot. Go and see loads of similar properties. Honestly, if you go and see 10 or 15 or 20, let's say 3-bed houses or 2-bed terraced houses or 2-bed flats or whatever it might be, if you go and see a load of those, you'll instantly recognize a really good deal when you walk in the front door. Start putting marketing out there yourself to attract sellers to come to you direct. That's how I personally built my own portfolio, and it's actually what I teach in my online property masterclass. Look for places to add massive value. Don't necessarily look for big discounts. You shouldn't be afraid to pay the market price for a property. If you can see that you could maybe build in that back garden, or you could maybe turn that property into 2 or 3 flats. It's not always about the discount. Certainly it's not always about the discount. Usually, more often than not, I would suggest, it's about the ways that you can add value. Some of the best deals are where you are going to pay the advertised price because, as I say, you've seen the potential to add massive value. Obviously, the more effort that you put into property sourcing, the greater chances of you finding an absolutely awesome deal yourself. For more tips and tricks like this, be sure to subscribe to our channel and download this 50-point checklist because it's going to really help you the next time you buy an investment property. My name's Tony Law from Your First 4 Houses with online training that helps you build